Man, that is one exciting producer. It's a Victory Monday on the Hoffman Show. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And the Commanders are 4-1. Yep, let's talk about it. Let's dive right in, shall we? It is time for First and 10.
It's time to get the breakdown started. 1, 2, 3, First up, 10 observations.
Mr. Good guy and just boom, put it right on the ground.
It's First and 10. Number 1.
It took a few series, but once this offense got going, oh my God, did they get going. And by the way, they'd already scored when I think they kind of really got going. But in the second quarter, they just seemed to have such a great feel for what Cleveland wanted to do to them. And Jaden Daniels, it took him a quarter against the best defense he's faced so far to figure it out. Oh, darn. A whole quarter for a rookie in his fifth career start. What a player this kid is. And there is so much to talk about with him every single week because we're seeing him grow. We're seeing him perform at a high level. We're wondering, hey, how much of this is sustainable? What is it that he can grow on? If you're a defense, how do you defeat him? But I think the thing that impresses me the most, the thing that is number one in our breakdown, is his mental ability to see things well. And for not the first time this year, second, third, whatever you want to call it, I have to go back. I know it's happened at least one other time, kind of against Cincinnati. But even, I believe, against Arizona, there was some extent of this. Although they were successful really early on, it just never stopped in that game. But there's some times when Jaden misses throws early in games that I'm like, that's a good miss. Like, he's going to hit that throw if he gets an opportunity later, but he saw the field correctly. He made the right throw. He just executed poorly. And that's being a human being. He's not a robot. He can't put the ball in exactly the same spot, exactly where it's supposed to be every time. And, receivers run a little bit differently. Maybe he's a little step slow on something or gets bumped on the way out. But, that's the right read. And at the end of the first quarter, there's a sequence like that in this game. And I actually just got done watching it on tape. I'm a little behind, so I haven't gotten through the full all 22 yet, which makes tomorrow's show really fun. But from what I've been able to watch so far, and this is something that I wrote down actually during the game, but I literally just watched this sequence back. They get the ball in the shadow of their own end zone with 1:01 to go in the first quarter. And they run the ball on first down. They don't really get anywhere. And on second down, they go, screw it. Let's take some shots. And they catch the Browns in either a cover 1 or a cover 3. I think it's cover 3. But they run verticals, and he throws, and it's a one-on-one situation, right? Whether it's cover 1 or cover 3 becomes irrelevant. Terry is wide to the left, and he is matched up one-on-one on the corner, and Jaden gives him a shot. It's a bad ball. He throws it out of bounds, but it's the right play to say, hey, this is my number one receiver. It's a weird deep shot at a quick game, if you will, right? There's no, I need to read this. There's no multiple progression. There's no risk. There is a blitz coming, but it's catch the ball in a shotgun. 1, 2, 3, ball is out. And he just misses it. And then on third down, great call by Cliff. They get 3 verticals, evenly spaced. Zach Ertz is the vertical up the middle as the tight end. And then you got the 2 verticals again on the outside. And the reason this is so perfect is because it's a Tampa 2 beater. And the idea is that in Tampa 2, you have 2 deep safeties guarding outside. Okay, so now there's 2 vertical routes by the receivers on the outside. There's going to be a safety over the top of them. Well, if the 2 safeties split the middle of the field and run towards the sidelines, what's open? The middle of the field. The responsibility for covering the middle field in Tampa 2 is the middle linebacker who has to run in a dead sprint and cover the middle third. And so the play is designed to just run your tight end up the middle of the field and hope that your tight end can beat that middle linebacker up the seam. And Zach Ertz wins, just not by enough, and Jaden throws the ball too far. But it's the right play call. It's the right throw in terms of the decision of where to throw the football. It's, even though it's a deep shot, it's 0 risk of a safety because the ball's coming out instantly. And they do a great job picking up enough of the pressure. Jaden gets the ball out, and he just misses. But he's seeing the field. And it's really clear that Cliff is on to whatever Jim Schwartz is wanting. He had the cover 3 beater on against that. He had the right middle field open, cover 2 beater on versus that. And he just had a sense of what Jim Schwartz wanted to do from that point forward. They're already up in the game because they got great field position after the 4th and 1 stop, and then they were able to take advantage of that. and they're off and running. Second quarter hits, bang, bang, bang. Next thing you know, they're up 20, or they got 24 points on the board at halftime, and it is the highest scoring game that we've had for the Commanders offense this season, even though it seems like they just are doing that every single week. Obviously, they slow down in the second half because they pull their quarterback at the start of the fourth quarter. Had they not done that and they had gotten past the 35-point threshold, that would have been the first time since 1983 that the Commanders offense scored 35-plus points in 3 straight games. Instead, they only score 34. But the feel that Jaden has, the ability for him to figure defenses out in-game, in real time, same thing really for Cliff. That is the thing that has been so impressive during this run and is the biggest test for them, obviously, coming up this weekend against Baltimore to see if they can do it again.
Number 2.
Now, it is easier to do that when you can design plays where you just don't have to worry about certain things. And there is a play in the first quarter that is the epitome of this, where other teams have to dedicate resources to block where they can just trust Jaden Daniels to run away from guys. They call a boot action with 6:05 to go in the first quarter. And they just leave Zadarius Smith unblocked. And part of it is designed to look like a zone read. And so, hey, will he take himself out of the play and go carry or go tackle the running back? Maybe. But if he doesn't, and we're running this not as a zone read run, but as a, hey, we're kind of faking inside handoff. It looks kind of like zone read. And then Jaden's going to pull it and get on the perimeter. A lot of times you might chip that defensive end. You might you straight up block him. You might have someone crack down like a tight end and make sure you seal the edge. Well, if you have a tight end that's going to come down and seal the edge, that's 20% of your eligible receivers. You only get 5 guys that can go out in routes. And so if you cut that number down to 4, and then you have to account for the fact that you probably don't have all 4 of them on that side of the field that you're rolling to. You already are booting to one side of the field. So how many receivers can we get that are even in play without throwing back all the way across the field? How do we do that? Well, we just don't block that guy. We just let the tight end go into the route. And sure enough, Zadarius Smith takes a half step inside, realizes Jaden's pulled it and kept it, and Jaden just flat out runs around him. And then he's athletic enough to create enough separation to have some space to then pull off an off-platform throw, and he hits someone down the sideline. That's the one I think that he hits Terry, and it's just a sick catch by Terry in making in between contact. The next thing you know, they're in the red zone. Like, what? You just leave a guy unblocked, have your quarterback boot out, and throw the ball in a tight window? That's cool. Every offensive coordinator in the league dreams of that. And Cliff is like, yeah, that's what we got, and he knows how to use it. That's good stuff. Yet, this game, I think, also felt the most sustainable.
Number 3.
Of all the games that we've seen so far from Jaden Daniels. I talked about in the Arizona game, it wasn't as explosive or as impressive, as prolific maybe, as rare of a performance as the Cincinnati game, where he completes 90% of his passes, has the big throws down the field. Arizona was just much more methodical, and again, it was great. It was brilliant. It was so well done. He completes 80+% of his passes. But I think what you see in this game is Jaden only completes 56% of his passes. That is low for the modern NFL, where a good game is going to be above 60 for sure, if not closer to 65. But that kind of a low end of, hey, is he somewhere between 55 and 70? If he's living there day in, day out, the Commanders are going to win a lot of football games. And they're going to win a lot of football games because he is going to find explosive plays. And he is Jaden in this particular case, but I would say Cliff has done a great job of that as well. Some of the screen passes, Eckler, the runs, Eckler, et cetera, et cetera. But Jaden, whether it's deep throws down the field, whether it is big scrambles, he is going to find explosive plays, and explosive plays are how you win. So as long as you're more or less staying on schedule, and 55% is good enough to more or less stay on schedule, and that'll be good enough most drives to keep you moving, he's going to then be able to create 1 or 2 big plays a quarter that can get you scoring in scoring position, and or might just straight up score. And you can't play man-to-man against him because he will kill you. He will either find the right matchup and he will hit receivers with a much higher completion percentage than 55%, or he'll run. And either of those are bad for the defense. So you're now so limited in what you can do defensively against him. It's not like he's bad against the other stuff. It also limits kind of what you can do to certain formations, which is where Cliff is at his best, right? There are defenses that are unbalanced, right? Sometimes you could play too high on one side and a single high on the other, things like that. But generally speaking, a lot of zone defenses are symmetrical. And so unless you're constantly playing asymmetrical coverages and Cliff is constantly going 3-by-1, well, now you have the same amount of guys to cover a 3-receiver side as you do a 1 or 2-receiver side. That's not good math. That's easy to figure out which side of the zone you're supposed to work. And so there's just not a great solution against Jaden Daniels so far this season. Baltimore, certainly I trust to figure something out more than I do any of these other teams so far. I mean, I would have guessed Luana Romo would have had a better something than what the Cincinnati Bengals had, but he also doesn't have the horses. He doesn't have the talent. But the thing is, like, Jaden can beat you going 90% and rushing for 50 yards and doing what he did against Cincinnati, or he can beat you like this. Only, 15 or 14 completions. I think he's 14 to 25, but he rushes for 80 yards. He still throws for 238, and he finds a couple of explosive plays, including the touchdown to De'Ami Brown that gets you points. And at the end, the result is the same. You've given up nearly 35, and you lose big time. Now, there's a lot of other factors that go into it beyond Jaden, but that's the biggest stuff that I noticed from this game that also parlays very well forward for Washington. The back half of our 1st and 10, let's talk about some other guys who deserve some attention, including Frankie freaking Louvu. We talk about him and everybody else next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And we are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. We roll along with our first segments of the show. 10 observations. We hit the big ones, then we get to everything else. These are still fairly important, and let's keep it rolling with number 4.
Number 4.
Shout out to the Commanders special teams, because you don't get a lot of love for those. Like when we do our film review, we don't talk special teams ever. I don't even watch special team snaps. I'm just like, next, give me back to the offense. Give me back to the defense. I might have to watch every kickoff of this game just for my own personal entertainment, because the hits these dudes deliver on teams from, Tyler Owens has been great. He was out for this one. Bryson Tremaine comes in, plays a lot of his spots. He gets a couple of nice sticks. Jeremy Reeves obviously been delivering big hits for years. The big one in this game, Jeremy McNichols on one of the kickoffs in the first quarter. I think it was after Brian Robinson scored his first touchdown. He absolutely decleats the ball carrier. And you're just like, oh, that had to hurt. And it carries over into every other part of the game. The energy that these units feed each other with is just fantastic. And the number one eater of energy and feeder of energy, if you will, on the defense,
number 5,
is Frankie Louvu, that's a bad job on me. Clearly, Frankie Louvu should have been number 4. That's his jersey number. You know what? That's an L on me. We'll review the tape. We'll get back to it. Write that down for next week. But Frankie Louvu was a man possessed in this game, and he continues to just get better and better the more comfortable he is with all the things that he's being asked to do in this defense. A blitzer from off the ball, coverage player who's making plays down the field, both in coverage and as a tackler if the other team is sometimes so unlucky to complete a ball where he'll just decleat you 10, 11 yards down the field. Obviously, as a pass rusher, he has 2.5 sacks. Overall, here's his stat line: 7 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, and a fumble recovery. Not a bad day at the office. And Joe Witt Jr. has done a masterful job of using him. Frankie is picking his matchups up front as a rusher, and he's starting to win a little bit more. He had a spin move in this game for one of his sacks that was filthy. Louvu is absolutely killing it, and he is the unquestioned, if Bobby Wagner's the brains of the defense, Frankie Louvu's the heart. He's the thing that makes them go. And the physicality he's playing with and the play style and all that kind of stuff that Dan Quinn likes, woo, buddy. Good stuff. Number 4.
Number 6.
We can go with number 6. The effort showed up again. We talk about playing hard and why it matters. Play in this game where it shows up big time. And I know Jay Gruden pointed this one out on Twitter. This is one of my favorite plays of the game. I pointed it out during the game yesterday. But Jay, if you want to see it drawn up a little bit with Jay mispronouncing a lot of names, then go ahead. It's a good time. Olamide Zaccheaus on Austin Eckler's 57-yard run sprints and ultimately winds up recovering an Austin Eckler fumble 57 yards down the field. Now, okay, that's impressive on its own. Wide receiver chasing the play, making sure that he's trying to block downfield. And he wasn't the only one, by the way. Terry McLaurin was absolutely hauling behind to get down the field and try to block the Browns that were chasing Austin Eckler, which I will point out did include Myles Garrett, 50-plus yards down the field. That is disgusting. Why is that man able to run that fast? He's too big to run that fast. Humans aren't supposed to be able to do that. Anyway, Zaccheaus, though, he runs a jet motion on this, so he comes across, or an orbit motion. So he's on the right side of the formation, pre-snap, runs behind the shotgun of Jaden Daniels to the left, and then he looks back as the handoff goes to Eckler to the right. So he has run himself all the way across the field, away from the play. And he just starts running back towards it. Back. And sure enough, as the ball pops out at the end, who hops on top of it? But Olamide Zaccheaus. I will, however, shout out Brandon Coleman and Luke McCaffrey, and I think it was Tyler Biotish. There was another lineman down there. All them dudes ran after the football. If Zaccheaus didn't get it, I think another commander probably would have, because despite the fact that they were deep in the Browns secondary, there were about 5 commanders there and 3 Browns. That is mega. That is how you win football games, because the little things that you don't anticipate can happen on plays like that, and it can be the difference in retaining a possession, getting that final block to get you into the end zone. It's really exactly what Dan Quinn preaches every single Friday, and probably other days, but especially on Fridays. You got to finish. Finish Friday, turn into finish Sunday, and we absolutely love to see it.
Number 7.
Joe Witt Jr. is doing a really good job with some of his simulated pressures. You probably heard that term over the last couple of weeks. It's been a kind of an in vogue thing since last season, but it's picked up big time this year. Simulated pressure is this. It looks like it's a blitz. A blitz by definition is, hey, there's 4 down linemen, we're going to bring 5. So anything that's 5+ rushers is a blitz. A simulated pressure, simulated blitz, if you will, is when we show that there's going to be 5, but we actually only bring 4. But it's not the 4 that you expect, and thus we can try to get ourselves a free rusher. So maybe 4 guys are on the line. We drop one of those guys out into coverage, and we blitz a linebacker or a safety. And because the offensive line is anticipating the 4 guys that are down rushing, they make their protection call accordingly. So how does this work functionally? If you want to see it happen in real time, go to Cleveland's second drive of the game, and on I didn't take it down. I think it was a second down. They dropped Dante Fowler out. He was lined up as the defensive end, and they blitz Bobby Wagner, and they blitz Wagner kind of on the outer edge of the offensive line. And DeJuan Jones, the right tackle for Cleveland, picks him up and lets Dorrance Armstrong, the other defensive end, run completely free at Deshaun Watson. Now, Armstrong misses the sack, and Watson ultimately throws an incompletion, scrambling out to his right. But you have a 4-man pressure, ultimately a 4-man pressure. You have one of the defensive ends, the premier pass rushing position in the sport, run completely free. That's good stuff. And they're doing it with really fun and interesting fronts where, whether you want to call it like a 3-4, I'll have to talk through this with Logan to get the technical differences, but whether you want to call it like a 3-4 or a 4-3 under front, they're kind of consistently playing 5 guys on the line. And if one of them is Dante Fowler, then he can drop out in coverage and be okay in a just a quick zone look. You don't want to put him man-to-man on anybody, but he can go cover some space. He's athletic enough, but he's coming most of the time as a pressure. So either you're getting 5 blitzers or you're getting 4, but you're not sure who the 4th one is coming from. And they're doing some of that with Jamin Davis when he's on the field as well. So they're using these athletic guys at outside linebacker. And it's funny because we all kind of chuckled when they listed Dante Fowler as an outside linebacker, not a defensive end. But they're kind of using him that way. It is almost a 3-4 defensive end. But on the other side, they've got a 4-3 defensive end. And those edge players in their athleticism, their ability to do different things, and the creativity with which they're then using Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luvu as blitzers from off-ball linebacking positions has created some real problems for some offensive lines. And I'm excited to see them continue to experiment with that moving forward.
Number 8.
Just a couple of fun facts here real quick, and then one final point. First, the Browns on one drive had too many men on the field twice in one single drive. On one of them, the Commanders were able to get a playoff anyway. The first one, the referees saw it and stopped the play and just gave the Commanders the 5 yards. On the second one, they didn't get somebody off in time or whatever it was. And actually, I don't even think they ran somebody off. The play ran, and then they realized the Browns had too many. And on that play, Jaden Daniels pulled his own read and ran for 13 yards, meaning he ran for 13 yards against 12 men, and I just find that genuinely hilarious.
Number 9.
Some fun stats from the game. One that we don't get to use. Had the Commanders score over 35 in this one, it would have been the first time they scored 35 plus in 3 straight games since 1983. I referenced that stat earlier. Instead, they just have to settle for the first time that they have scored 30 plus points in 3 consecutive games since 2005. Yeah, since 2005. That is the 8th time in franchise history. Here's some other fun ones, courtesy of Commanders PR. They're 4-1 to start the season for the first time since 2008. They are 2-0 at home to start the season for the first time since 2011. They've recorded 3 rushing touchdowns in 3 consecutive games for the first time in franchise history. That's right, the franchise with the Hogs and Riggo and first time 3 consecutive games with 3 rushing touchdowns in franchise history. They're the second team in NFL history to have at least 3 rushing touchdowns in 4 of their first 5 games, joining the 1954 San Francisco 49ers. Per NFL research, Washington is the first team since 1970 to score 150-plus points in their first 5 games while starting a rookie. At quarterback, per Elias, the Sports Bureau research agency, Washington has won 2 consecutive games by 20 or more points for the first time since 1997. They also held a 28. This is just a super random one. Held a 28-point lead for the first time at home since November 15th of 2015 against the Saints. There was a big screen pass to Matt Jones in that game. My memory's dumb. I hate that I know that. Jaden Daniels, first player in NFL history to have 1,000-plus passing yards, 250-plus rushing yards in their first 5 career games. And his 34-yard rush against Cleveland is the longest rush by a Washington quarterback since Taylor Heineke had a 38-yarder against Green Bay in Week 7 of 2021. The list goes on and on and on and on of cool things that happened in this game. Guys that set records. Terry McLaurin over 100 for the 17th time in his career. He also recorded his longest reception since Week 9 of 2020 and passed Jerry Smith for the 7th most receiving yards in franchise history. Also joined Santana and Gary Clark as the only players to register 400-plus receptions in their first 6 seasons with Washington. Yeah, all those numbers add up to say things are good right now in Ashburn/Landover and everywhere in the DMV in between, which brings us to
number 10,
which is where things are not good, which is Cleveland. Yo, the Browns suck. That team is terrible. And I could not complete a game review of this without simply pointing out the Browns are offensive. That offense is a joke. It's not well designed. It's not well called. Watson's a nightmare. Their other players don't play well. I feel somewhat bad for their defense, but they're not that good either. And their good players are banged. Like they did some good stuff. Like Joker's good. He can run. He can hit. Delpit's a good player. Myles Garrett is banged up, so he doesn't look like Myles Garrett. But like there's some stuff on that Browns defense. They deserve better. That offense and that organization, that franchise, man. It was like Washington cleared out the path for being the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL, and the Browns were like, we would like to reclaim our crown. Y'all can have it. It's just the poop emoji put on your head. Cleveland, as a town, as a city, y'all deserve better. The owner doesn't, and it's really his fault anyway. So, Jimmy Haslam, look what you built, sir. It's a reflection of yourself. That's our 1st and 10. Up next, Tell the Truth Monday. This is when you call us. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Your calls on what you saw as the Commanders move to 4-1. It's a Victory Monday on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube on this Tell the Truth Monday, and the truth is the Commanders are 4-1. Our question is then, what do you make of that? 301-230-0980 is the phone number, 301-230-0980. That is not what that graphic is supposed to look like. Bang, bang. Okay. Nope, not that one either. Where's Anthony? I used to know how to operate this show. That's the one that we want. The one with the phone number on it. Not the one that says Cliff Kingsbury's at the podium. That's a different bit.
I don't even know that bit.
Yeah, we have graphics for Thursday's Pick Six. I want to make sure that we have Cliff and Joe graphics. They're new. I added them last week. And by the way, how was the wedding that you went to at noon on a Thursday?
Dude, it was actually a very, very, very long day. Very long day.
Okay, well, we can talk about that later in the week. We'll have to let some of that make the air. Anyway, the point is, it's Tell the Truth Monday, and we would like you to call. Anthony, do we have the open, by the way? Because remember, we had an open for this now.
Yes, we do have an open for it.
So really, Anthony and I are locked in on this Monday. Let me tell you what. But it's Tell the Truth Monday. We want to know what you think, and let's get to it, shall we?
It's Tell the Truth Monday on The Hoffman Show.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Call us now at 301-230-0980 to tell the truth about the Commanders.
You can't handle the truth!
Or hit the comment section at the Team 980 on YouTube.
All right, let's get to the phones. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Teddy. Teddy, get us started. The Commanders are 4-1. What did you see yesterday? Tell the truth, sir.
I was, like a lot of Commanders fans, man. I'm from D.C., been a Commanders fan all my life, or Redskins fan all my life, and I was just cautiously optimistic because, I have that syndrome that we've been, beat so much that I don't want to be totally overly happy. But I think that what I've seen is, from the way that we're scoring from week to week, it looks sustainable. I mean, if we just had a fluke week where, we scored 30 points or whatever, you wonder, is that, sustainable? But the way that we're doing it, it seems like it is. And even on the defensive side of the ball, I was seeing, like, for our tackle, was it Mathis, make plays. I hadn't seen him make plays in, like, 2 years. So I think it's definitely contagious. We're flying, defense may not be perfect, but we're flying to the ball and playing very hard. So I think we can play with anybody because if you look around the league, who should we really be scared of?
Well, if we want to play pessimist, I would say that you haven't beat anybody that's probably going to make the playoffs. Now, the Bengals, their schedule's real light over the next month. There's a chance they work their way back in, and their offense is clearly rolling. But the Cardinals aren't good. They did beat the Niners yesterday, but they're not good. The other teams you beat, the Giants, they're not good. You have the Ravens this week, but they also play who's on your schedule. And by the way, when you finish last place last year, you're going to have a lot more bad teams on your schedule in the future. So I would say this. We've at least gotten to the point, Teddy, where I'm not scared of anyone. I'm not saying I would pick them against everyone, but I'm not scared of anyone. And I think that's a great place to be as a fan. We've been waiting for that for a long time. Let's go to Jamal. Jamal, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show on a Tell the Truth Monday.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Man, I am super excited, Craig, man. I'm one of those fans who's been optimistic. I've been, kind of on the fence as well because we're used to this team letting us down. But so far, I must say, I've been impressed, and I think it's sustainable like the last caller said. This game against the Ravens this weekend is one of those games that I think will move the needle even further. If they get out there and walk away with a victory against that team in their stadium, and then let's just keep it if it's an impressive win, too, because I think that's why we're optimistic. Everyone keeps saying we haven't played anyone yet, but we're beating the crap out of them. We're not going out there having close games with them. We dog walking them, which I feel like you should do to teams that aren't good when you're a quote-unquote good team. So if we come out here this weekend and beat the Ravens, get ready for the Super Bowl song, Craig, because it's going to get crazy. You already know that, man. Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. No, it would get crazy. And, the thing is, like, the Browns are terrible on offense, specifically. Whatever is worse than suck. Like, they're absolute booty on offense. But what did you want them? I guess, go for the shutout. Okay, yep, shutout would have been nice. You want him to finish with negative 15 points? Like, they held him to 6, and then in the fourth quarter, they got a garbage time touchdown. Okay, cool. You held him to 13. But, like, the fact that they are absolutely destroying teams, and they're barely punting on offense, like, they are playing at such a level that I think you do have to take that into account, like Jamal said, where it's like, yeah, they haven't played anybody, but what more do you want them to do? Pretend it's week 2 of college football and it's an SEC team facing north-southwest directional state tech? Like, no, these are NFL football teams, and they are beating them sideways. Are they going to continue to beat teams sideways? Probably not. Are they going to beat the Ravens sideways? Well, if they do, then that narrative is going to get out of control. But I also understand it. Would it really be out of control, or would it be a reflection of what happened? I think I just hope they compete against Baltimore, and I think they will. Like, I expect it to be a good game. But as long as they compete against Baltimore, I'll feel really good about where they are the rest of the season, because after Baltimore, Chicago looked better, and they're in here after Carolina's in here, and Carolina's not very good. So, if they lose or compete with Baltimore, they beat up Carolina in the same way they beat up these other bad teams, and then they beat Chicago. Shoot, they could be 6-2 going into November. That's a good place to be. I don't have to be a math or football expert to know, hey, they only play 17 of these, and they're 6-2 after 8. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. 301-230-0980. Phone lines are full, so let's take a quick break, come back, and more of your calls on a Tell the Truth Monday. (301-230-0980) is the number on a Tell the Truth Monday here on the Hoffman Show after the Commanders absolutely beat down the Cleveland Browns. Man, what a performance. And we want to know what you thought of it. Tell the truth about how you're feeling about this team. 301-230-0980. Let's keep things rolling with Christian. Christian, thanks for holding through the break. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Oh, what's up, man? How y'all doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Man, I'll tell you what. I'll tell the truth, and I'll tell you who is the truth. I got two words for you. Frankie Lou. That man can fly. I'm trying to tell you. I'm worried about Baltimore, as everyone else is, but at the same time, I am happy with how we are competing. Our line, our guards are pulling. We're getting good blocks in. Man, this is nothing like the Commanders, Redskins football team that I've known, man. I remember the Rex Grossman, Albert Haynesworth days, and I can finally be able to watch a game or a non-Commanders game and just be happy to watch football because I know that we're doing good. I like our outlook for the season. I love Jaden, of course, like everyone else does. And it just feels good to watch some good football and not have to root for only my fantasy team. So it's just all great. It's all great.
I hear you, Christian. Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. And, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, if you just feel like you have to watch bad ball, like for me, it was my job, so at least I got paid for it. But if you're like, this is my team, I got to watch, and you're sitting there and you know there's another game or red zone or something just one click of the remote away, you're like, no, I got to watch my team. And you're just watching crap football week after week. That's no way to spend a Sunday. Now you're getting to watch some of the best ball in the league week in, week out. That is a good way to spend a Sunday. And looks like there's going to be many more to come. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Josh in D.C. Josh, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. What truth do you have on this Tell the Truth Monday?
I mean, I got to tell the truth about the field goal kicker. I mean, he's been straight silent since we brought him in. Like, come on, like, hey, we finally got a quarterback. We finally got a field goal kicker. We finally got a good winning culture. We finally got a real GM. We finally got a real coach. You know what I mean? We're not the laughing stock of the league no more. You know what I mean? Now we're starting to get some respect on our name. You know what I mean? And we can't, you know, we got all the right to be happy and everything like this, but, you know, we need to focus on Baltimore because that's a really tough competition coming up. Like Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, like, what are you going to do? I mean, I know our offense and defense is going to do something because they in practice, you got Jaden Daniels running around, so he's kind of emulating a Lamar Jackson. You got Brian Robinson, you know, he's not Derrick Henry, but he's getting up there, you know what I mean? So our defense kind of knows how to work around those two situations when it's coming to an elite quarterback and an elite running back, you know what I mean? So I just hope I hope it's going to be a close game for real. I'm not looking for a blowout. I'm looking for a good win and take home the belt with.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the call, Josh. And to go back to your first point about about Austin Seibert, like, remember that was a huge point of consternation earlier in the season. Like, training camp the whole time after the Brandon McManus disaster, after multiple kickers miss. And what did Dan Quinn say? Hey, we're gonna keep taking swings, and we're gonna find something. And is Austin Seibert perfect? No. If they need a 58-yard game winner, like Seibert has kicked from that distance before, but it is definitely not his ideal. And what have they done? They found Seibert, and they say, look, he is money inside 40 yards. So let's try to make sure that if he's kicking field goals, they're inside 40 yards. He's hit a couple outside, so good for Austin Seibert, for sure. But they've also been really aggressive and smart in their play calling. When they're in that 50-yard field goal range, they don't do what the Bengals did yesterday and just go like, well, we're in field goal range in overtime, and then Evan McPherson winds up missing because of a bad snap and a bad hold. No, they freaking just get close, and then they go for it. And on fourth and 2 in this game, they have the end around to Austin Eckler. That's a great play by Eckler. I can't believe he got 10 yards on that. Good design, good blocking, good execution, good enough on all the things. And then Austin Eckler makes it happen. And they avoid having to kick a 50-yard field goal. So they put him in good positions. And that's the thing. I feel like the staff has done a good job through and through putting players in positions to succeed. The players have then held up their end of the bargain more and more week after week on defense. That is true as well. And the result is a 4-1 football team. Let's go to Derek. Derek, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. What truth do you have on this Tell the Truth Monday?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
All right, cool. Everybody's praising the players, but I want to give a special praise to the ownership group, Peters, and the coaching staff. One thing that is apparent to me, I've been a fan. I could probably count on the one hand the amount of games that I've missed over the last 25 years. And this year feels especially different, even though, we went to the playoffs in 2005, 2007, 2012, 15, all those years. This year feels different because, one, it doesn't feel like we're going to back into the playoffs if we get there. I know I'm talking way ahead of the turn right now, but all those other years we were down in the hole and we had to dig ourselves out. Also, one of the things that feels different, that is different, is we are beating up on the teams that we should be beating. For many years now, we have played well, and then we come against an inferior opponent and we play down to them. We might beat them, but we might eke it out. It just feels really good to just win against those games that you're supposed to win. So I'm excited for this Baltimore game because I don't know where we are in power rankings if everybody wants to talk about that, but I know that this game will be a good test because it's a legitimate opponent. Even if we lose, I hope it's close. If we win, wow, I'll be very impressed. I'll be elated. But like I said, just shout out to Peters, the coaching staff, the organization. It's the culture change is happening. The culture change that we've been waiting for 25 years is happening. So just wanted to say that.
Great. Yeah. No, absolutely great call, Derek. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for listening as a fan who's been through a lot in those 25 years. Much appreciated. And to Derek's point, I feel like fans said they wanted a culture change, and then when it wasn't exactly maybe what everyone had in mind, when you don't get the hot young coach, or obviously everyone's pretty excited about Peters, but then it's like, oh wait, you're bringing in these older players, and I feel like now for the most part, if you're paying attention, you get it. And the other thing that I'll say about Derek's call is, playoffs, we're getting way ahead of schedule. Yeah, we're still only 5 games in the regular season, but they only play 17 of these. And you already got 4 wins, which of course is as many as they had last year. But you go on a 3-game losing streak, you're still 500. Knock on the wood, doesn't happen. But you built yourself such a cushion that now you're in a really good spot. And if you even play 500 ball the rest of the year, you got, let's see, there's played 5, 17, 12. So if you go 6-6 the rest of the year, you're 10-7. That should get you in. And that's why this early season matters. How you're playing at the end of this season is probably going to determine how well you do in the playoffs, but in a season that is so short, everything matters. Everything counts. And the Commanders came out ready to play this season and take advantage of what's turned out to be a maybe forgiving schedule. And in power rankings, does that matter? Yeah. Does it matter in the actual standings? Nah. So congrats to them. They've set themselves up well. Now they have a very long finish, if you want to call this a finish, or just keep on rolling and set yourself up to see just how good you can be for the rest of this regular season. Thanks, everyone who called in. We'll try to get to more calls coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Coming up next, though, Michael Phillips on his weekly visit. Despite the fact that he abandoned me yesterday in the press box, we will have Phillips on this here radio show next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And coming up at 5:30, we go around the NFL. Wild, wild day of NFL action. Started very early in the morning in London. It finished very late at night in Pittsburgh. We'll run through all of the games at 5:30. But right now, it is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Except Michael Phillips wasn't there. Where are you, Michael? Where are you, Michael?
No,
Where are you, Michael?
No, sir. Not at all. I'll be there this Sunday, though. Wouldn't miss that one.
Yeah, I would. I missed the credential deadline, and it's just generally easier to not have to drive to and from Baltimore. So I'm gonna watch that one from home. But you, sir,
we'll trade out
for a home game after one. This is only the second home game this year. You abandoned me, not for anybody. You abandoned me for Linnell.
This is wild because, as you see, I live in Richmond, and so on game days I commute up to D.C. It's not a pleasant commute, but I do it because I love football and I love my job. I still commuted all the way to D.C. I just didn't actually go to the football stadium, so it was a little weird.
Yeah, so people did get to hear your opinions during the game yesterday and during the pregame show. We had great fun with Linnell. In fact, Anthony, that actually reminds me, there was a couple of funny moments. I joined Michael and Linnell on the pregame show, and Linnell made a couple of bad analogies. Michael had some reference to something happening in England, and I made a couple good jokes, and I think that we should review those later in the show.
Say no more.
All right. So that now that that's been marked, you can just pull that from yesterday. You might have to go in the 106.7. I don't know if we were still on 980 at that point. The point is, Michael, you did get to watch the game in studio. You were on the Linnell roller coaster ride. So as you started the show today, though, what's the big takeaway for you yesterday on another day, second in a row, where there's plenty of good things to say on both sides of the ball?
Craig, I am ready to get hurt again. I'm in. I'm all in with these guys. I'm ready. And I think this is for real. And the last two we've had, right, the two graphics they keep showing, Lamar has, not Lamar, I'm already onto this weekend. Jaden has the best numbers since RG3. The team has its best record since Jim Zorn. And gosh, both of those ended as flaming disasters. I believe this one is different. I really do. And I believe this one's more sustainable. I love that Jaden learned and grew as the game went on. I love that he didn't take big hits. I loved everything about this scheme. I love the way the defense came to play. Call me crazy. I'm ready to get hurt again. I think this one's for real.
No, I'm with you. And I don't know whether that, will there be some pain at some point this year? Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes, of course.
Right, they're not going to run the table and score 30 every week and give up in the teens. That is a pipe dream. But long term, are they on the right path? I don't even know what other – unless Peters just botches the next two draft classes or something, they are on such a good path. And I think the thing that I am really starting to appreciate as he gets better and better week over week is just how much cushion Jaden puts underneath the entire football team with what he's able to do week to week.
And look, Deshaun Watson was so bad. We could talk about that if you want to. They're so screwed. But that defense is legitimately good, Craig, and that defense came out with a plan to bother him, to get to him, sacked him on the first drive, intercepted him in the first quarter. It was working. He goes back to the sideline. He processes it. He comes back and says, okay, I can beat this. And he could. He did beat it, right? That's not a rookie. That is veteran-level stuff right there. To see what they're throwing at you, see it working, a span of 30 actual minutes, not football minutes.
Right. He just figured it out. And I actually wrote down in my notes, I was like, They were actually up 7-0, I think, 7-3, 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, or into the second when this drive happens, because they had gotten the 4th and 1 stop. They score on a short field, but I don't feel like he had actually figured it out yet. And then he misses Terry deep, and then he misses Zach deep out of the shadow of his own end zone. And it's like, yeah, he missed them, but those were the right throws, and those were good play calls, and that was wide open. And I was like, the Browns are in trouble, trouble, trouble. And sure enough, they cooked them in the second quarter. But also the other thing, Michael, I think when you start to watch it back that you realize, I don't know if this is something you could appreciate watching it on TV in real time, is there's just certain things he can do that you can't have that in the playbook with other guys. Like, you can't just naked boot and be like, we'll leave Zadarius Smith unblocked. That's fine. Our quarterback will roll out and find a guy in a tight window and just zing one into Terry McLaurin, and we don't have to worry about blocking the defensive end. So there's just stuff they can do with him, and then the running ability that just saves drives, that puts such a cushion and floor underneath you that you are able to, it kind of gives you the time to figure everything else out.
Yeah, that's a very great way to put it there. He makes the rest of the team, gives the rest of the team a margin for error. He gives the rest of the team the ability to adapt, to adjust whatever it is they need to do in that moment. And that's huge, right? That's how you put yourself in position to win football games. And they didn't need a late drive in this one, but when they needed a late drive, he's been clutch, right? If you're the defense, even if you're down 7 late, you say, all right, get this stop. He's going to get it figured out. We're going to win the football game on the other way. That's what you need going into a game against a team like Baltimore, right? I do expect Baltimore's going to score a lot of points this week. You need that cushion where you say, okay, we can make a mistake here. Number 5 is going to make up for it for us. Like, how huge is that? And then you mentioned, being at the stadium. I'd love to get your thoughts on what it meant to have a largely pro-Commanders crowd, not a lot of visiting fans, have everybody leave with a good experience. I think those are the things that really define franchises and fan bases and help you create what you're trying to create here in a very big picture sense.
So I will answer your question on some of it with a question here, because you're the perfect person to have this exchange with. Michael, when you leave the press box after a Commanders game, as we head down to the locker room, what does that sound like?
Yeah, you walk it. You're in the concourse, and
right. So you're in the press box. It's typically like there's kind of like a sullen silence because they just got their asses kicked. That's been the experience the last couple of years, right? You open the doors to the press box. What is the wave of sound that hits you?
Usually the visiting team's fans doing their chant.
Right. And so it's not that loud, but there's a definite, like, off in the distance, go Big Blue, go whatever chant, right? And so in my mind, like, that association is there. You open the door to silence or the opposing fans razzing Commanders fans. I opened the door yesterday, Michael, to leave the press box to go downstairs and was just smashed in the face by happy people noises. And I was like, whoa, that can happen here. And it was jarring in the best way. Like, I truly mean this, Michael. Like, I was unprepared to open the press box door and hear people cheering because I'm just so conditioned that, like, oh, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to do my job. And people were so excited after a game, and fans are like beating on the side of the escalator, making noise, hooting, hollering. And so, yeah, it was like, would I say, like, during the game, there was this huge, like, oh my God, overwhelming crowd. Definitely, like, you felt it as Watson and that offense continued to sputter. People were loud when the defense was on the field. People explode on the Diami touchdown. So, like, it was definitively a Commanders home crowd, but I wouldn't describe it as, like, raucous, wild, out of control in the way that I think if they go compete against Baltimore and beat a couple other teams later this month, that we're going to be, looking at in terms of a home crowd in November and December if this team's in contention.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it'd be like if they beat Baltimore, right, and then come home to we all see what the schedule is on the other side of Baltimore. If they find a way to do that, this town's going to go crazy, and rightfully so, right? I mean, I said on my show today, I think this is a playoff football team. I really do. I think you have to expect them to make the playoffs the way they're playing right now. If you beat Baltimore, my goodness, that goes through the roof. That's absolutely a playoff team at that point. And then, to the happiness you mentioned, like, there's a full lost generation here of people who are not Commanders fans because they grew up in some of the bleakest years of football any city in America has seen, a very bleak stretch. Part of Josh Harris's job is fan acquisition. It's not fan retention, it's fan acquisition. You acquire fans with superstars and fun experiences. Right now, they got both.
No doubt about it. Michael Phillips, 910 The Fan in Richmond with us, of course, on the beat for so many years for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, still covering the games, except for when he decides to fill in for Denton, who actually was at the game on Sunday here on the Team 980. Member of the Odyssey family, of course. You can listen to his show 10 a.m. to noon on the free Odyssey app. Just search 910 The Fan. And, Michael, I would actually ask you this question because I was trying to think about this earlier. I was on a podcast today and got asked this. Like, what's the best crowd? Actually, I think I was on Awad's show, and he asked me this. I did a lot of stuff today. Long day, Michael, but we're here. What's the best crowd since 2012 that you can think of at FedEx, now Northwest Stadium?
Yeah, in terms of result, I'd have to dig really deep on that one because it is right. It's the 2012 game against Dallas to play into the playoffs. That's number one in recent memory. Everybody knows that. And honestly, in terms of hype and buzz, number two is probably the Monday night opener the next season, the all-in for Week 1 game before the air got fully taken out of the room. That was a juiced-up crowd. They. Probably the playoff game against the Packers, but that was half Packers fans. I don't know that there were a ton of, there's the play-in game against the Giants where all they needed to do was beat the Giants and make the playoffs. There's a great atmosphere that night. They didn't win. There's a game against the Giants with Heineke where it felt like they were about to turn the corner. They didn't. I'm remembering a lot of pregame good crowds. I'm not remembering a lot of postgame good crowds. There were big wins, like the Sunday Night Football win over the Packers was a great win. You like that game where you come back from 24 against Tampa, but those crowds weren't lathered up in the way, that a crowd expecting a good thing is.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting at is like what are even in contention for what it should be, barring them getting their doors blown off in Baltimore. And again, knock on all the wood that doesn't happen. But like, what are we looking at in a couple of weeks, potentially, and especially Carolina? That fan base is not going to travel. Chicago, that one could be interesting. But like to me, the Packers playoff game for sure. Like that crowd was juiced up and ready to go, and then it went sideways when Deshaun fumbled down near the end zone, and obviously there were a lot of Packers fans, but that was a very good Washington crowd that day. There was a Monday night game against Dallas, I think that year. Maybe it was a couple years later. Maybe it was 2017. Also a memorable Deshaun Jackson whoopsie, the one where he fumbled the punt late.
Yes, it was.
I don't mean to be picking on Deshaun here. It's just happened. Those are the two games that kind of come to mind. I do remember, obviously the winning in Giants game. Like I remember being like, dang, the crowd was ready and the team was not. But overall, like I think this is kind of the point, right? So I've been here since 2015, and that's 3 games that I can think of that I'm like, oh, that was a great home crowd. And so outside of then the Arizona opener last year, the first game of the Josh Harris era, which was I wasn't there, but I was told it was pretty good, but like different kind of good. I think we are headed for a legitimate new era here, and it's great that, I think Josh Harris and them were already investing in the stadium, but I imagine this is just going to push them, be like, dang, our fans are going to be here. Like, we got to make sure they have a good time. And hopefully it just continues to push everything in the right direction in all the ways that you started to touch on there.
Yeah, and it's going to take all year, right? I mean, they're definitely – you're going to slowly win people back over the course of the year. Winning on Monday night against Cincy was huge because a lot of casual fans saw that, and a lot of people who've fallen off the bandwagon saw that. But I think also, and, look, it's a day to be enormously happy, and it's a day to be enormously happy about everything. There are still questions about the defense, but I think that what you saw yesterday was a defense that got better. It has gotten better over the last 3 games. Certainly Frankie Luvu is on that trajectory, right, where he's gotten better every game. Mikey Sanders still has gotten better every game. And you mentioned the drafts, and obviously we trust Adam Peters with those. Think about the pile of free agency money they've got to spend this year. That's equally huge. And what games like this do, what fan bases like this do, is they make it easier to get free agents, right? Like, hey, I'm Adam Peters. I have a pile full of money. Come play football for me. Okay, that is a compelling pitch. Like, you're going to get some guys. Hey, I'm Adam Peters. I have a pile full of money. Come play with Jaden Daniels. Like, right. That's an even better pitch.
Right, 100%. Like, the fact that they got him in year 1 is going to accelerate everything else they wanted to do because guys are going to want to come and play here. I'm glad you mentioned Sainristil. I wanted to talk about a couple of other guys here. You mentioned Luvu as well, but what's been your impression of Sainristil and how he's been able to adapt to outside corner and what that means for this team moving forward? The Emmanuel Forbes of it all, the Mike Sainristil of it all, the defensive backfield of it all.
Yeah, he's a rookie who started in one position. I think it's fair to say ended up in another position. That's tough to do as a rookie. He seems to have the intelligence, the football IQ to pull it off and pull it off well. I don't think anybody's talking about Pro Bowls or anything like that, but what you're talking about is finding a guy who's a piece of the future. And I think once you go outside and succeed, you don't come back inside, generally speaking, as a rule. So I think he's probably there to stay until further notice, and that helps take the pressure off of everybody else because we all saw what a glaring weakness that was. I mean, I think I was on this show a couple of weeks ago saying, look, I think Noah Igbenogany might be the best you've got, and you've just got to make peace with that. I think this is a better solution, Craig.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. It's like Noah is actually, at this point in their career, seemingly a better nickel corner than Sainristil is. And so if Sainristil is your best outside corner, not named Benjamin St-Juste, and Igbenogany is your best inside corner, period, this is a more than workable solution. This would be, based off their current roster, an optimal solution. Imagine that, Michael. Optimal solutions for the Burgundy and Gold.
Incredible. I don't even know what to do with myself, Craig. It's such a happy time. It's incredible. And we've all seen fan bases go through this, and we've all known, people who are in this, and for it to happen here now, it's incredible.
It is. There's a part of me that says, do we then just end the interview here? Do we keep talking about good things for Washington, or do we end the interview by going, hey, Cleveland, your situation looks familiar. Thank God it's not us anymore. Which one would you like to do? More good Washington, or would you like to take your pot shots at Cleveland?
Hey, we can knock it out quickly because, look, these guys talked about getting Deshaun Watson. These guys talked about signing Russell Wilson. When you need a quarterback, you're desperate. We're on the other side now, and everything is better and brighter because of that. But I'd certainly – I'd open it up to a little running backs talk. I feel like Anthony Lynn isn't getting the love he deserves because he's doing a great job with those guys. And, man, Austin Eckler, every time he touches the ball, he gets 15 yards, but you can't give him more touches because also B-Rob is a beast right now. And also your third-string running back is probably a guy who could start on some NFL teams right now. They got it going at that position.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing with McNichols. Michael, he hasn't played a snap until this season, until 2021. What? Was he hurt I don't think he was hurt the entire time. How is that dude not on the field? And I guess it also, if we want to answer the rhetorical question, it's why running backs aren't getting paid, right? There's Jeremy McNichols out there just waiting to be awesome behind the right line and the right scheme and with the right group of people. And because of that, why would you pay anybody big money when he can come in and average 5.8 a carry and run people over and be an A-plus pass blocker on third down? But also, how the hell was Jeremy McNichols not on someone's roster active on game day since 2021 when he's playing like this?
This is why we love football and love talking football, Craig, right? You can unwind this all day and you say if he were somewhere else, would he be able to have the success? If you dropped another running back into this system, would he be able to have success, right? The Alfred Morris year here with Mike Shanahan in the zone rushing, and also that year was the year Robert was going crazy, so everybody had to account for him. It's such a team game, and that's what you love about days like yesterday when you demolish the other team like that. It's not just wow, Jaden Daniels was good, but everybody else gets better across the board, and everybody else feels good about themselves. And, that's the Super Bowl tax, right? Bill Parcells talked about, and Bill Walsh, those guys, right? You win the Super Bowl, everybody looks better than they actually are, so everybody ends up leaving because you don't have the salary cap to keep everybody. That's a long ways away, Craig, but that effect is what you saw yesterday, where when the team's playing well, everybody looks better than they look individually.
That's true, but also you see what happens in Kansas City, and guys just come in and they all of a sudden are better. Like Juju Smith-Schuster leaves Kansas City, not that effective anywhere else. Eventually Kansas City's like, hey, you want to come back? And he's like, sure, I was good for you. And now he's a big part of what they do, and we'll see obviously what they do tonight. But it's one, Andy Reid's good at putting guys in good positions, and also Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of stuff right. And that is a huge part of the success in this league. You can pay the tax when you have Brady, when you have Mahomes, and it's very early to say that they've got that in Jaden. But if he keeps playing like this, they sure do. Nevertheless, if he continues to get better, and also Michael, I don't know how closely you read the game notes, so I will end with trivia for you. Michael,
I'm ready.
Michael Phillips, man who has covered this football team for a long time. Very, very good on the history of the Washington organization. We know the rich history of running the football, the offensive linemen, the running backs that have played for this organization. The Commanders have now rushed for 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games. Michael, when was the last time that happened for Washington?
I don't know the answer. I'll certainly guess Rigo.
The answer, Michael, is never.
I love it. I
never.
love it.
The franchise with Rigo and the Hogs is setting new rushing marks. Just fantastic.
I love it so much.
Here's one that you might actually know. Do you know how many times in Washington franchise history a quarterback has run for over 100 yards in a game?
Yeah, Jaden still hasn't. It's just Robert.
Yep, that is correct. It's just Robert, the Minnesota game. That's the only one. But that very much feels like a yet. But we'll see. We'll see when that yet becomes unyetted, if you will. Michael Phillips, everybody. Listen to him. 10 a.m. to noon, 9:10 The Fan down in Richmond. Thank you as always, sir, and we will talk to you next week.
Catch you next time.
All right, it's Michael and trivia questions and fun facts and all that kind of stuff. Coming up next, we go around the NFL. Anthony, are you ready? You did send in your picks on Friday. Are you ready to see how you/we did and talk about an absolutely bananas day of football?
I'm very excited.
Let's do it. That's next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I'm chuckling because Anthony is fully into Thunderstruck right now. By the way, did you see the clip going around from Chris Long's podcast talking about Will Levis?
I don't think I've seen it.
It's real funny. Chris Long is like, Will Levis is a guy who's like he didn't say cartoon. He's like a movie quarterback. His entire life is just a highlight reel set to Thunderstruck. This guy lives in Thunderstruck. And if you look at Will Levis, it's pretty funny. Anyway, our lives are not set to Thunderstruck. They are set to this music, though. Come on. There we go.
There it is.
There it is. Week 5 in the NFL saw football, Thursday night chaos, Sunday morning in London, a rain delay or weather delay of Sunday night football that meant it went deep into Monday morning, and we still have Saints and Chiefs tonight. We talk about it all now as we go around the NFL. Anthony, are you ready?
I was born ready. Let's get it.
Excellent. You and I never got the chance to talk about Thursday night football. Look.
Who did you pick?
I did. You know what? I don't want to talk about that. I think I want to talk about it by the end, though, so it'll be all right. And frankly, like, I talked about it a little bit on the show on Friday because I was pretty salty. The Bucs should have won this game. Like, the amount of absolutely stupid things that had to happen at the end of this game for Atlanta to win. And credit to Atlanta and Kirk, and they did the thing. Like, but again, if Tampa just like falls on Drake London with 1 second to go instead of letting Atlanta scotch free up to the line of scrimmage to spike the football, then the game never gets to overtime. So, I mean, the Bucs just absolutely screwed themselves out of a win. Good job, you guys. Way to go, Tampa. But hey, maybe Atlanta's found its offense. Kirk throws for 500 yards, and the Falcons won.
Yeah. Hold on. So did you pick the Bucs? I'm assuming.
I did pick the Bucs.
I hate that for you, Craig. I hate that for you. I picked those Falcons. But I'm not going to lie. What Kirk and them did in the final 12 seconds, that was pretty impressive, bro.
Yeah, it was impressive, but like also it should never happen.
You're right. But the fact that it did is...
If a Tampa defender lays on Drake London 1 second longer, or one of them bumps the referee, oh, sorry, Mr. Official, when he goes in to set the ball, like,
he
they
didn't
win.
Even set it, though, Craig. He literally ran
tapped
and tapped it. I thought they actually had to hold the ball, put it down. But apparently, it might have changed this year. I don't know. But, hey, Kirk threw it 58 times.
Yeah, that's 58 for 509. If you're going to throw it 58 times, you should have a lot of yards. Boy, did he. 42 of 58 for 509. And they won.
Yep.
And they won. So there's that. Jets, Vikings. The Aaron Rodgers experiment is not going great for the New York Jets. Obviously, last year went about as bad as you could. Played 4 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Torn Achilles. This year he comes back. And he also would like to throw the ball a lot. Let's just have all our quarterbacks that are 35 and up throw 50-plus times coming off of torn Achilles. That sounds like a formula for success. It worked for the Falcons. Didn't work so much for the Jets. Rodgers, 29 of 54, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, averaged 4.5 yards a completion. Like, you threw 54 times for 54 yards? That's horrendous. Sorry, yards per attempt, not yards per completion.
Yeah, they were talking about, this Aaron Rodgers versus Brian Flores chess match. And it seems to me Brian Flores won.
Sure does. 13 of the 29 Aaron Rodgers completions go to Garrett Wilson. He has 13 for 101. So 13 catches, good. 101, not so good for that, as opposed to like Justin Jefferson, 6 for 92, far more efficient. Although Sauce Gardner did a pretty good job, all things considered. 14 targets, only 6 catches, but he still gets 92 yards. Still has a couple of key ones, and obviously, the Vikings did enough to win. And the thing is, between Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones and a couple of Darnold keepers and a couple other guys who get carries. Like, Minnesota ran the ball 30 times in this game. New York ran it 14. You just need to be more balanced offensively to get the most out of your passing game. And Rodgers just wants to sit back there and try to be Aaron Rodgers that was MVP, and he's not that dude anymore. He's just flat out not.
Do you think it's Aaron Rodgers that's deciding, all right, let's pass the ball here, or
he's in charge of everything. He's in charge. The only reason Nate Hackett is there
needs to run the ball, man.
Yeah, no kidding. The only reason Nate Hackett is there. My cousin asked me. He texted me the other day. My cousin who's a Jets fan, and he goes, "Do you think, in your professional opinion, that Robert Saleh needs to get fired?" And I said, to be honest, I don't know. I would need to know more about his ability to hire coaches. Was he stuck with Nate Hackett because Rodgers said so, and when it comes to the offense, Aaron Rodgers is in charge? Or did Saleh sign up for this enthusiastically? Because if he did that, then he needs to go because he's not good at picking offensive coordinators. If this was forced upon him, then he can stay because the defense has all in all been pretty good in his tenure. And if he can then just go hire the next guy that Kyle says deserves to be an offensive coordinator, or the next guy Sean says deserves to be an offensive coordinator, and run a more complementary system, then Robert Saleh could be a fine head coach for the New York Jets. But Rodgers needs to retire and Nate Hackett needs to go for that to happen.
Yeah, it's not looking good, man. It's not looking good.
Things are looking better suddenly for the Bears. Playing the Panthers tends to help. Monstrous second quarter for Chicago. They score 20 in it. 36-10 is the final score. Caleb Williams, 300 yards, nice efficient, 20 for 29. DJ Moore, big game against his old team. 5 catches, 105, and 2 tuds.
2 tuds. That boy, hey, he looked good, man. He's fine. Granted, it is the Carolina Panthers, but the Carolina Panthers are the same team that got their first dub against. Who do they upset?
Someone, I don't remember.
I forgot who they upset. But, again, everybody was talking about, maybe benching Bryce Young. The Panthers got a little bit more fight in them. Bears went out there and completely derailed everything they had going on. The Bears' defense also looks the part. We had a lot of expectations for those guys.
Flus and that crew, since last year, 10 of their last 11, they've held opponents under 21.
Man. Looking good.
By the way, later this month, they'll have one of their biggest tests in that stretch because they'll face Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Ravens, 41, Bengals, 38. This one, yikes, bro, for the Bengals in overtime. They get the ball after Lamar fumbles a snap. By the way, Lamar in this game was ridiculous as a passer. This is going to be fun tape to go back and watch and prep for Washington this week, because I think Cincinnati did what you want to do. You want to force them to become one-dimensional and make Lamar beat you from the pocket, and Lamar threw for 348, 4 touchdowns and no picks on 26 of 42. If he's going to do that, you're just probably going to give up a bleep ton of points. But until the 51-yarder that he had at the end, let me do this math real quick. Hold on. Derrick Henry, going into his final carry, had 14 carries for 41 yards. And then he ran for 51 and set up the game winner. So Henry, 15 for 92, a little bit misleading, because when the Bengals recovered a Lamar Jackson fumbled snap in overtime, all they had to do was get a first down and have a 40-yard field goal. Instead, they just run the ball 3 times, set up a 50-plus yarder, and their reward by the football gods of being non-aggressive was a bad hold. And Evan McPherson, who's really good as a kicker, never had a chance, swings it wide left. Henry for 51, Justin Tucker for the win. And instead of 2 teams sitting at 2 and 3 and a lot of questions, you have the Ravens at 3 and 2. Perfectly fine considering how bad the AFC is top to bottom from the wild card standpoint. And the Bengals at 1 and 4, frankly, aren't even that far out of it.
Man, the Ravens have had some close calls all season, man. But I'm excited they were able to, go out there and pull it out. Derrick Henry, him only having 41 yards before was that OT? He had the 51-yarder?
Yeah.
What? I would have never have had that on my bingo card.
Nope.
But again, that's
But Luana Romo was like, you are not going to run on us. And I kind of think that's what Joe Witt's got to do this week. Make Lamar be MVP passing Lamar 2 weeks in a row. I would much rather that than Derrick Henry go for 200.
Yeah. I can't wait to get into the preview of this game because I have so many questions.
I do as well. I do as well. Dolphins 15, Patriots 10. Tyler Huntley playing quarterback is better than Skylar Thompson and whoever else they had playing, I guess. But they only score 15 points, but the Patriots are an absolute nightmare offensively. Jacoby Brissett, by the way, on the last play of this game, throws the ball like over the middle to Hunter Henry to like the 10-yard line. They have no timeouts, and there's like 10 seconds left and the ball is snapped. Like, what are you doing? Generally speaking, he's running for his life. I feel a little bit bad for Jacoby, but he knew what he was signed up for. But yeah, Dolphins 15, Patriots 10. All right. I think I got that one wrong, actually, in the picks. Yep. By the way, how are we doing so far?
We're tied right now. We're both 3-2.
Okay. So there's that. This one, did I zig on this one? Did I pick Jacksonville at home?
Yeah, you did. And I should have gone with you, Craig. The Colts have not won in Jackson. I really think it's a curse. It has to be. Since 2011, they have not won in Jacksonville.
An absolutely crazy fourth quarter. A 24-17 fourth quarter. Luckily for the Jags, they had scored 20 going into it, and the Colts had only scored 10. So 37-34 the final. Trevor Lawrence, 28 for 34, 371. What happened that the Jags just gave up? I mean, the Colts gave up so many big plays to this Jags team because that's all they try for. Like, you have to know. We have to make Trevor beat us dink and dunk. They're not going to run the football a ton. Although, I guess they let up a couple of big ones because Bigsby had 13 carries for 101. That'll ruin your day.
Yep.
What's going on with this defense?
So on the Bigsby 75, I think he had a 75-yard
65.
TD. Oh, 65. There it is. 65-yard. People missing tackles in the holes. And then Brian Thomas, he had like a 70-yard bomb because they're in cover 3, and I don't know what the corner on the outside is doing. You can't let a guy wheel up the field and you not see the guy. I couldn't believe it.
It's not like Brian Thomas is a small man. It is a big man, runs fast. He hit over 22 miles an hour on that catch. It was an 85-yarder.
Yeah,
he 22 miles per hour, the fastest ball carrier of the season, I do believe, per Next Gen Stats, unless someone beat it in the afternoon window yesterday. It was when it happened. He has a $122. Kirk's got 88, as in Christian Kirk. Tank Bigsby, 13 carries, 101, of course, inflated by that 65-yarder. Flacco, by the way, 33 of 44, 359 and 3 touchdowns. But Shane Steichen said today that when Anthony Richardson is back, he will be the starting quarterback in Indianapolis. So something to watch there.
Yep.
But the Jags, 37-34 winners at home. Game of the day in terms of contenders, etc. Bills, Texans turned into a kind of wacky game where C.J. Stroud has arguably his best performance of the season, 28 for 38, 331 and a touchdown for Stroud. Meanwhile, also had a pick. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, easily his worst performance, not only of the season, but arguably of his career. I mean, I guess the Baltimore game was also pretty bad. But 9 of 30? 9 of 30? Oh, 9 of 30, 131, and a touchdown, no picks. Doesn't really have he's got 4 for 54, including a 19-yarder on the ground. So, Allen was productive in that way, but the Bills just could not really put it together. And then, obviously, the big talking point in this one is late in this game, Buffalo, if they just run the football, this thing goes to overtime. Instead, they take a bunch of dumb shots and wind up punting the ball back to Houston, and then Kymie Fairbairn comes in and kicks a 58-yarder for the win because the Texans barely have to move the ball because of how bad the field position was for Buffalo. Just an absolutely ridiculous job by Sean McDermott managing this game late. This is the kind of thing that if the Buffalo season tanks, people are going to look back at this game and be like, we can't trust you to be a head coach, and that's the kind of stuff as a head coach that gets you fired. You can't do that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I didn't think they would be able to, get down the field on the 1-yard line with 30 seconds left to go. Yeah, you have a couple of timeouts, but you got a ways to go.
If you want to take one shot, fine. Taking multiple shots?
3 was insane.
What are you doing?
Yeah. And they had 16 seconds when the Texans got the ball back. So you get in the ball, you only got to get maybe 8 yards to get in the kicker's field goal range. Man.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good. I think I missed that one. I think I had Buffalo.
Yeah, you had Buffalo. I had Houston.
Dang. I think I missed this one too. Broncos Raiders?
Nah, you got this.
No, I got this one. Okay. 34-18, the Broncos. Did I do something dumb on Competition Wednesday with this game maybe? I don't know. I got maybe the Raiders vibes are so bad that I picked them for some stupid reason. Maybe that was last week, and I'm still scarred. The point is the Broncos defensively have been really, really good, but their offense got going in this one as well. But they actually got some points from their defense, including a 100-yard pick six from Pat Surtain. Bo Nix, 2 touchdowns to supplement as well. Just a nice, tidy day, 19-27, 206 for Nix. And the thing is, this defense is good enough, Anthony, that if they can just not turn the football over, like, they'll compete in some games. Run it, Sean Payton's gonna figure some things out. Raiders, they got nothing figured out, dude. They got 2 quarterbacks that each split time in this game, 12-17 for Minshew, 10-20 for O'Connell. They've each threw picks. Like, the Raiders are a mess, and it sucks because Antonio Pierce did a good job as an interim last year, and you're kind of going like, hey, if you did this good of a job, we kind of got to give you the job. Mm-hmm. And time again, like you just gotta, like, when will organizations learn to not hire the interim guy? Don't do that. Go through a process. If he turns out to be your best guy, great. But man, if you're, this is a little funky, unexpected thing for me to say here because I'm going to bring the WNBA into it. But like, if you're Mark Davis and you've hired Becky Hammon to coach your basketball team, because those are the 2 teams that the owner of the Raiders owns. He owns the Las Vegas Aces and he owns the Las Vegas Raiders. And he's got Becky Hammon, one of the best coaches in the sport on the basketball side. How do you then look at that and go, I know what I need to do. No interviews, no nothing. Antonio Pierce is my guy. And I guess they were at the risk of like a locker room mutiny, but I kind of think guys would have gotten over it. I hate that they didn't go through a process. Not that they necessarily hired that they wouldn't have hired Pierce, but like, you didn't go through a process. You just hired the guy who was a good interim coach and was the right guy to be the counter to what Josh McDaniels was. Wacky year, and that's even before you get to the Devontae Adams stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, you didn't even mention Devontae. I don't know, the Raiders are giving bad news bears like all over again, and it's going to be a long season. We're only in week 5, and the Raiders are talking about they want to have, a resolution for the Devontae situation like in the next 48 hours. So I don't know.
Which other teams don't necessarily want to because they don't know about his hamstring. So the Raiders going to take an under-market deal because teams are going to be like, I don't know about that hamstring. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Cardinals 24, 49ers 23. Didn't see this one coming. Big fourth quarter, 11-0 for Arizona. Jordan Mason held under 100. He's been so good for San Francisco, but big game for Brandon Ayuk. Doesn't matter. Brock Purdy, 19 for 35, 244, and a touchdown. But 2 picks. Kyler only throws for 195, but does have a touchdown, and he runs for another 83 yards, including a 50-yarder and a touchdown. James Conner, 19 for 86. Man, like, I didn't get to watch much of this game because obviously I was doing post-game stuff for Washington, but when I saw this score, I was like, I'm sorry, the who beat the who? After San Francisco looked to be back on track after just housing New England, and Arizona got their doors beat off by Washington. But, I mean, good job by the Cardinals to bounce back. And I think it's proof of, like, what Washington did to Arizona was really impressive. This is an Arizona team that crushed the Rams and has now beaten the 49ers for their 2 wins, and Washington smashed them.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about, San Fran early in the year, or, just through their first couple of games, I had mentioned, their defense not being the defense that a lot of people fear. And I think a lot of it has to do with their front. Yes, they are banged up, but they also just don't have the names that we're accustomed to seeing. I haven't heard too much about Nick Bosa all year. So, again, I think the defense has to step forward. Jordan Mason fumbling, though, on their side of the 50 did hurt because the Cardinals got the ball back, marched down the field, scored. So I think that hurt them a lot. But I don't know, San Fran, they got a lot to figure out. What are they, 2-3 now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to get dudes healthy. They got to get that defense playing right.
I mean, dudes is more so just McCaffrey.
I mean, it's McCaffrey, but defensively they don't have their guys, and they got to figure out see if they can get some of those guys back, and then ultimately what they do with it. Packers hold on to beat the Rams. Stafford driving late, but it comes up short. 29 for 45, 260 and a touchdown for Stafford in the loss as Jordan Love and company ride a big third quarter to a 24-19 win. Love 15 of 26, 2 touchdowns and a pick as he continues to work his way back. Josh Jacobs, I give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit. 19 carries, 73. That's not a good average, but and it's not like he had any big ones either. He was just kind of kept plucking away, but it keeps the offense on schedule. They did what they needed to do. Jaden Reed gets a couple of carries on bigger plays. They found ways to move the football, and Tucker Kraft emerging as a good tight end. And lo and behold, the Packers do what they're supposed to do. They go to L.A. and they get a win, and then they'll come back home and have another game this week and a chance to keep pace with the Vikings, but really solidify themselves as the prime contender for a wild card spot in the NFC.
You see Xavier McKinney, 5th straight game with an interception. He's cooking defensively for them. And I think that's a part of their team that doesn't get spoken about enough. And they're missing Jair. So I think when they get him back, that defense, that back end, is definitely going to be able to keep those guys into some games.
Giants and Seahawks. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yep,
what?
Yep.
29-20. The Giants win decisively in Seattle. The Seahawks are good. The Giants are not. What happened here, Anthony? What happened, you ask? The schedule. The schedule. Yeah. The Seahawks, who, by the way, will play a third game in 10 calendar days this Thursday as they play the Niners on Thursday Night Football. They went from Monday night back home. Giants coming off Thursday night, so they had a +4 rest day advantage, and they looked like the much fresher team. They seal it with a blocked field goal, so the margin winds up being even wider. I don't think that particularly mattered unless that perhaps pushed it to the over, but clearly the Giants were not favored in this game. And they went out and won 29-20. Geno, 284, a touchdown. And I think the biggest thing from this game from a New York standpoint, Tyrone Tracy, the best back they've had all year, best performance by a back, 18 carries for $129.
Yeah, he was going federal. He had a couple of big runs, 25 yards, 27 runs. I'm like, good gracious. And this is, in the absence of Devin Singletary. But I'm so surprised that the Giants were able to move the ball on offense. Here, Malik Neighbors is going to be there. Who are they throwing to, Craig? But I guess if Tyrone
Darius
Tracy,
Slayton, 8 catches, 122 and a touchdown.
Yep, he had himself a day too. But outside of that, it's just like, we praised Seattle for their defensive backs. So we already know, yes, they have Darius Slayton, but who else? They just made the plays that they needed to make.
Wan'Dale Robinson's catching a lot of balls, not going very far with them, but if you keep the offense on schedule, good things can happen. Daniel Jones picks up a couple first down with his legs, and lo and behold, there you are. Jones has 11 carries in this game, so they do enough. Wan'Dale Robinson, by the way, 6 catches on 9 targets for 36 yards.
Nice.
Went nowhere fast. Last but not least, Cowboys and Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Cowboys 20, Steelers 17 as they get the late touchdown by Dak Prescott in the fourth quarter. Prescott 29 of 42, 352 and 2 touchdowns, and a huge fumble recovery as Rico Dowdle went in for what would have been a game-winning touchdown. Steelers linebacker jumps over the pile, knocks the ball out. Prescott able to recover it and then throw a touchdown on 4th down. As time is nearly expiring, Jalen Tolbert, the game winner, CeeDee Lamb, kept in more check, 5 catches, 62, but Steelers offensively just couldn't get anything major going. 15 of 27, 131 for Justin Fields, 2 touchdowns, and then ran for another 27. I wonder if this kind of performance opens up the window for Russell Wilson to play in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be an interesting week in Mike Tomlin press conference land. Yeah,
it'll probably be interesting. I still think Fields did just enough to get the dub yesterday. The Cowboys converting that fourth and goal. Pretty impressive execution by those guys. Tolbert with the strong grab. But I think the Steelers' identity is going to be their defense. They get that stop there, they win that game. Shout out to – I don't know.
Here's the thing, like, how many times have we seen that exact situation and TJ Watt gets a sack?
Yeah.
And but the thing is, like, how many times they can have to wind up in that situation when they're up 17-13? Like, what more do you want from your defense? I mean, I guess you want one more stop, but
please,
against an offense as potent as Dallas, like, hey, let's get maybe a few more on the board, and if you score just 24 points, you win the football game, and it's not a big deal. But Cowboys get the win. 20-17. They're 3-2, as is Pittsburgh. We will talk about all these teams in our NFL tier rankings tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever we get to them this week. And coming up next, we'll get back to the Commanders and the Browns. We had a pretty good list of our pick 6 on Friday, and I know you weren't here for it, but so I think you'll be excited to uncover the 6 players that we talked about in our pick 6 and just see how they did because they definitely were keys to the game. Much more breakdown of Commanders and Browns next on the Team 980. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, 6:30, we'll take more of your calls on a Tell the Truth Monday, what you feel about the game, which is probably good. Commanders 34, Browns 13. But on Fridays, we pick 6 players who we think will have a big impact on the game. And then on Monday, we see how said players did. It's Monday. It's 6 o'clock. Let's hit it. It's time for the Pick 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level, build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, Anthony, you will get to talk about some of the picks that Matt Essig made, and of course we'll talk about them all as well. But we start off with what was Essig's number 1 pick, which I laughed at the time.
Number 1.
And that was Jeremy McNichols. But McNichols had another solid game. It was kind of based off the premise that, hey, we don't know if Brian Robinson's going to play, but like we kind of did know Brian Robinson was going to play, and Matt was like, I'm picking him anyway. And I was like, okay, he might not even get any carries. It turns out he does. He gets 7 of them for 44 yards, including a 28-yarder and a touchdown. Good again as a pass blocker. Jeremy McNichols, I think, Anthony, has earned himself a role in this offense, whether Brian Robinson is playing or not.
I definitely do think he has. Again, he only got 7 carries, ended up with 44. That's about 6 yards a carry. And that's, the name of the game, basically waiting for your number to be called and making the most of your opportunity. And he did that. And, again, those tough, hard yards that you got to get, he was able to go out there, fight for it, and then ultimately also end up getting in the end zone. And then he also, made a play on special teams. Came down and smacked somebody. I said, God dang.
Yeah.
So I think he was a good call. Definitely he made some impact plays. And to be honest, when I think of Jeremy McNichols, I always, think back to Adam Peters and all the free agent acquisitions he made, just because all the acquisitions we have here are constantly making plays game in, game out. And he's just, another one of those guys, even if he isn't, the quote-unquote starter.
No, he is. I think, later in this game, B-Rob is on the sideline because he had been banged up, and they just wanted to make sure that he wasn't getting anything extra added to that. And so McNichols probably winds up with a few extra carries that he wouldn't get because Eckler's coming off injury too. So it's probably 3 or 4 carries a game. But if he can be impactful in those 3 to 4 carries and, spell Eckler, save him from having to be a blocker in certain passing situations, but still be dangerous, right? Yep. I think that is an enormous thing for a team to have, just a spell third back, because it means that B-Rob, down, they don't lose any power, they don't lose any pop. They lose some consistency. He's not as good as Brian Robinson, but they get a fresh Jeremy McNichols every time he touches the ball, and they get a more fresh Brian Robinson as the game and the season goes on. So it's a huge advantage to have that. And again, I don't know how often he's going to show up in a pick 6 unless B-Rob is hurt, but turned out to be all right for this one. I still would have taken my guy, number 1.
Number 2.
Frankie freaking Louvu. Oh, my God, what a day this guy had. And I was like, look, Deshaun Watson in this offensive line, they take a lot of pressure, a lot of sacks. He led the league in being hit. He led the league in being sacked coming in. Frankie Louvu's their best pass rusher. They're going to try to find matchups, and they sure as you know what did. Louvu on the day, 7 tackles, team high. 4 solo tackles, tied for a team high. 2.5 sacks, team high. 2 tackles for loss, team high. 3 quarterback hits, team high. I think he was the best player on the team, Anthony, on the defensive side. I need to look it up. You tell me what you thought about Frankie Louvu, and I'll look up his PFF grade.
Man, that dude was a man possessed. It didn't matter where you need him. Pass coverage, blitzing, coming off the edge, lining up in the interior, filling running gaps. He was everywhere, man. He really was. And just, thinking back to the linebacker duo with him and B-Wags, having a guy like B-Wags, IQ, seeing it, everything, having a guy like Frankie also to play off of him, it's just, the best, you can ask for and the thing. And I think they said on the broadcast where they talked about what the Panthers lost in their defense. Yes, you're going to lose Brian Burns. That's who everybody was talking about. Who's going to get Brian Burns? Who's going to get Brian Burns? But nobody was talking about Frankie Louvu, and they thought his impact was the biggest that the Panthers had lost after last season.
Yeah, the impact he makes, just the physicality he brings, the tone he sets, the versatility he gives you, it's fantastic. His grade, an 80.6 on
way.
PFF. They hated, apparently, I guess he missed a couple tackles. I'll have to go back and watch it. But they only had him as a 43 tackling grade, 63 run defense, and 61 in coverage. But his pass rush grade was at 91. I don't know. He was everywhere. He felt like he was everywhere. I think that they were just perfectly fine, happy with everything that he did yesterday. So Frankie Louvu's coming in at number 2. He was my first pick. I feel pretty darn good about it. Last one in our first half of our pick 6, Anthony.
Number 3.
Dorrance Armstrong. He had a solid day as well. I think he winds up with a sack, if I'm not mistaken.
He got a sack.
He got a sack, 3 tackles, a couple quarterback hits as well. Let's see what he graded out at PFF wise. He graded out as a, let's go, pass rush grade. Dorrance Armstrong, 79 with an 87 pass rush grade. 6 pressures, 4 hurries. He just gave DeJuan Jones, the rookie or second-year right tackle for Cleveland, absolute work on that right side. And they also did a good job of scheming him up some. I mentioned this play during 1st and 10. They sent a zone pressure, or like a simulated pressure, I should say, where they drop Dante Fowler out and Armstrong just comes off the edge unblocked. And you're like, well, that's probably not supposed to happen. Watson actually escapes that one, but mark it down as another hurry. It winds up being an incompletion. And he just, the last couple games, you felt Dorrance Armstrong. Like, Dorrance Armstrong has arrived at the party. Mm-hmm. He has put his coat in the closet, and he is going to stay a while. So I'm very happy to see Dorrance Armstrong continue to play well.
Yeah, and I think his motor coming over from Dallas, everybody talked about his energy. And I think that was on full display yesterday, being able to run down plays and ultimately also end up getting his sack.
Yeah, just, I mean, and again, that like approach, I guess is the best word, right? That mentality. This is what Dan wanted, and he's one of the guys that they brought in to set that, and he's absolutely doing it. All right, that's the first half of our pick 6. Coming up next, a couple of guys on the perimeter that we want to talk about offensively and defensively. So the back half of our pick 6 to come. But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports, presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And you can check us out on YouTube. Stream's been popping a little bit today at the Team 980. All right, Anthony, back to it for our pick 6 at 6. 6 players that we picked on Friday that we thought would have a big impact on the game on Sunday. And boy, did they, including
number 4.
I picked Dyami Brown because I thought that he would be the guy that would benefit from the extra attention or the extra opportunities with Noah Brown being out. We found out on Friday that the Commanders' number 2 wide receiver, although they're doing a lot of committee stuff, but the guy who's really their second guy is out. And I thought, based off of some of the deep comebacks and some of the vertical stuff that they wanted to do, the bigger body, a guy who they would need on the field to be a blocker in the run game, that Dyami would get some opportunities. And then Dyami did the thing we've been waiting for him to do largely outside of one game for almost 4 years. And that is get deep, bro. Dyami, the 41-yard touchdown. Jaden could not have walked down the sideline like with a magic pause button and placed the ball any better. Dyami, an excellent job on the route of getting separation and looks like Dyami Brown, hey, a third-round pick that takes a couple years, not an unheard-of story, but he is developing into a useful football player for this team.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you just talked about what we've been waiting for this guy to do since we drafted him 4 years ago. We know about the high-end speed that he had. We know what he used to do in college where he used to go deep all the time, and we were waiting for the deep playmaking by him. And he's been a little bit, more consistent, I guess, when it comes to, catching the ball down the field. And that's all we want to see, consistency. And, wide receiver 2, we still don't know who that guy is. We sort of got a committee there. Zacchaeus, Brown, Dyami. I guess we have 2 Browns. But, yeah, both of them.
Yeah. And, by the way, continues to do his thing. He's a 60.6 in the run game as a blocker. Or a 60.6? Yeah. By the way, I love that they give Jaden Daniels a run blocking grade. He grades out at a 60. I don't know for what gets considered run blocking for him. But anyway, Dyami, it's not like his best blocking game ever, but like he does the job. Luke McCaffrey, who I guess I should mention real quick because he's not in this pick 6. Like Luke, dude, the B-Rob touchdown in the first quarter, there's 11 things I love from that play. From the design where Cliff, I was told it was called our guy Robbie Duncan, who you probably follow on Twitter. He played O-line at ODU and is a big Commanders fan and did some podcasting and such. Might still do some podcasting, but he said that he's heard it called a crunch concept, where they it's like 3 traps. So instead of one guy coming out and whamming somebody, you get 2 guys blocking down, 3 guys pulling opposite of the play to catch anybody who comes back across, and John Bates winds up blocking a 3 technique in the hole and just smashes him. And then on the perimeter, though, because it kind of takes a while, there's one guy that gets free, and B-Rob has to make a miss, and he does. It's Grant Delpit, and he slips the tackle. Mm-hmm. But he has all that time because the corner is nowhere to be found because Luke McCaffrey blocks him for legitimately 5 seconds.
Craig, he wasn't blocking him. He was escorting him out of Northwest Field. That's what he was doing.
You, sir, out the club.
Out the club. Good gracious.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Super fun to watch. So Luke, a ton of credit for his blocking, and he graded out real well in that. But Dyami, hats off. The next guy had a very interesting game.
Yes, he did.
Number 5.
Terry McLaurin. So on a stat sheet, Terry McLaurin, monster day. McLaurin, 4 catches, 112. That's good. But it comes where it's 4 catches on 8 targets. He's got another couple of balls that I think he probably could catch. He's got a fumble. And let me put it this way. If Terry can catch 112 and make big explosive plays like he did on the 66-yarder, I'm going to be just fine with Terry McLaurin. And I'm not mad at Terry McLaurin for the game that he had. I'm not mad at Terry McLaurin one bit. That is also probably the worst 100-yard game he'll have in his career because of the fumble and some of the other opportunities that he could have had an even bigger day.
Yeah, what sticks out to me is not necessarily what Terry did, is more so what didn't he do. He had a couple of drops, including one back of the end zone he had it in his hands, and I think he was too focused on the toe tap that he lost sight of, what he should have been doing in the first place, which is catching the ball. And then, the fumble also hurt because they get the ball back, they go down, they kick a field goal. But it's more so we want to be able to the things we did in the first 4 weeks of the season where we took care of the ball, we didn't turn it over. A lot of that sort of kind of came out in yesterday's game. And granted, I hope this is just a one-off and we're just not, being so aloof of the football. Just, maintaining the ball, keeping it is a priority. And no, it happens even to, some of our better players.
For sure. And it was a weird hit. Like, he got smashed, and then as he got smashed and was going down, he got hit in the head. And I think when he got hit in the back of the head, like, it's his job to hold on to the football, but, like, you're like, dang, if you get hit in the head.
He punched that thing out.
Oh, did he get – see, this
GLK went like this.
Oh, well,
I said, dang.
Sometimes when you're at the game, you wind up missing more than if you were watching at home.
You got to tell us how that was. I know you talked about it with Mike, but oh my God.
I mean, it
looked crazy.
Did it? It's so hard in the press box. I felt like it was a good crowd, but there was no point in the game where I was like, wow, this crowd's out of control. Like, people were definitely psyched, but I don't feel like it was as major as it's going to be 2 months from now. I'll put it that way.
I didn't see that many red seats up in the
no, it was definitely the most full it has been. Yeah. I will definitely say that. It is the most full that it has been in a long time. And it was mostly burgundy and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great, even though there were a fair amount of Browns fans, because there's a lot of Clevelanders in this area, and they probably bought tickets a long time ago before they realized their team would be an embarrassment to the sport of football. So there's that. Terry, though, he gets hit in the head and it gets punched out, so that double hard to hold on to the football. The other thing with Terry that I think is just like, it is what it is. He is not the cleanest catcher of the football. Before this year, like, he barely ever had drops. He would always somehow catch it, but it's not this clean catch, and that sometimes can make it hard to get him involved in, like, the screen game, because you need that smooth catch, tuck, and go. And if you bobble it at all, or some of the other stuff where he should have the ability to bring back down footballs, it doesn't happen for him. So for as great as Terry is, and some of the quick slants and stuff, even, like, if he can catch it in his body and continue to run, is big time. If he needs to get out here and put hands up and catch it, sometimes it's not the best. So it is something that I hope he continues to work on, and I'm sure he will, because it does on some level limit his opportunities. But also, he had 4 catches for 112 yards, including the big explosive play of the game. All right. Last but not least, in our pick 6.
Number 6.
Benjamin St-Juste. Benjamin St-Juste had another good day. I thought he played some coverage well where it showed up, some coverage well that you probably noticed if you watch more on tape, because the ball doesn't go in Amari Cooper's direction. And I was nervous, Anthony, because I was like, hey, Amari Cooper, super technical route runner. Those are the kinds of guys that sometimes give BSJ issue. And I was nervous that might happen. Didn't. He was all over it. Good day. And I thought it was also really interesting. I talked to Dan Quinn, or I asked Dan Quinn at the press conference. It wasn't like a separate private conversation. But in the press conference after the game, I asked DQ about Sanders still playing outside and them not switching anybody. And he was like, it wasn't about, like, basically he was covering his bases on it. It wasn't about Emmanuel doing anything wrong. It's just like, yeah, it was working. Like, Mikey was great. BSJ was great. Noah's good inside. Why would we mix it up? We're not giving up anything. And sure enough, they just were able to get some consistency. And I think Noah in the nickel has some advantages. I think Mikey's playing well outside. And that's actually something I would like to tomorrow get to. The question and back and forth I had with DQ about Sanders still. Because I was like, how has he been able to play outside? He's so small. And on paper, he shouldn't be able to. And Dan goes, he really knows himself. He knows what leverages he needs to play. He knows what positions he needs to be in. And obviously, he also brings the physicality. That hit he has on Watson on the sideline.
Man.
Whew. What was Deshaun chirping about? You were inbounds. Shut up.
Those quarterbacks don't like hits, though, Craig. It was a legal shot. They just don't like it.
I don't want to hear about Deshaun Watson and anything that other people don't want to do, etc. You get what I'm saying here. Yeah. Deshaun, you're in between the white lines. You got smashed. Shut up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but that physicality from a rookie to go on a cornerback 2 yards from the sideline and be like, I'm going to knock you off your feet out of bounds. It's good stuff. And so the general physicality and he's learning the leverages and all that kind of stuff. And meanwhile, on the other side, it's caused BSJ to be a number one corner, and he has been up to the task outside of having to cover Jamar Chase. And as we see yesterday in Baltimore, or against Baltimore, nobody can cover Jamar Chase. So that is much more reflective of Jamar Chase than it is Benjamin St. Juste, who's all in all, I think, having a very, very good season and is continuing to grow within this defense. That is our pick 6. We will pick 6 more players on Friday for the Ravens and Commanders. Coming up next, your phone calls, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. A Tell the Truth Monday, your takes on the Commanders' 34-13 win over the Browns. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980, where I've given Anthony a full screen one shot and nobody can hear the music. But it's just that would be a fun thing. Guess the music in the chat. Anthony, hold on. Turn the music back up for a second. And now keep dancing. See if Yep. Here's what I want. If you're in the YouTube chat right now at the Team 980, I want you to guess the song that Anthony is jamming to. That's what I want. So you guys do that in the chat. We're going to talk some football. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Anthony, the phone's ringing. You have to get the phone now. Yeah, thanks. And it is time again for a Tell the Truth Monday, where you call us and you tell us what you think of the game. And do we have the open? I know you're talking on the phone right now. Do you have the Tell the Truth Monday open? Okay. And officially, the phone lines are open.
It's Tell the Truth Monday on The Hoffman Show.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Call us now at 301-230-0980 to tell the truth about the Commanders.
You can't handle the truth!
Or hit the comment section at the Team 980 on YouTube.
All right, let's get to the phones. 301-230-0980. Let's go to the right mouse so I can click on the phones for AP. AP, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, how you doing, Hoffman?
Doing well. How are you, man?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good, man. It's Victory Monday. Just getting home from work, man. It's a beautiful day.
So what you got from the game yesterday on this Tell the Truth Monday?
Oh, for sure. So first things first, I want to touch on a caller. I don't know his name, but I remember he was very critical of the job that Adam Peters had done as far as acquiring, set amount of players like Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, all these players that he was just, he was calling them bums, I believe.
Yeah, I remember the call. Anthony, do you we have that call pulled and saved? I think it was Shane and Oxon Hill. Anthony, how quickly do you think you could get Shane and Oxon Hill's call up for the people that aren't as up to date, that may have missed this epic moment in show history?
Yeah, I'm working right now.
All right, hold on. AP, give us 1 second here. We're gonna let you respond to. By the way, while the takes were bad, the pronunciations were even worse, which made it that much better. But it is an epic moment in show history. So any chance it comes up for us to replay it, I do want to do that. So Anthony, are you ready over there?
Well, I put it in the search. I'm just waiting for it to load.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, while AP, we'll play the call again in a second. What directly would you like to say to Shane from Oxon Hill? I believe was the caller.
Shane, loud and wrong, sir. That's all I can say. Loud and wrong. Loud and wrong, sir. Take several seats. Matter of fact, take a whole stadium of seats.
Northwest Stadium, perhaps.
Yeah, Northwest Stadium, yeah. Matter of fact, you should be in attendance.
Yeah, and you can see Olamide Zaccheaus, for instance, ball out.
Oh, yeah, Olamide. Who else? I think was he critical of Austin Eckler?
I do believe he was critical of Austin Eckler, which is why, last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, that in the YouTube algorithm, suddenly I was getting some comments and some things on Shane's call, and I was like, why is this call going nuts and everything? I was like, because he did mention Austin Eckler.
I really hope he wasn't critical of not Jeremy, excuse me, but Frankie Louvu, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm throwing my ones up. That's my new tribal chief, a.k.a. Uso, a.k.a. Roman Reigns. That's my dude. Man, seeing that post-game speech, not even a speech, I guess it's called the haka. That's what they do, for the Samoans, they do the haka. He got me hyped. He had me ready to put on a skirt, man. I know that's what they do. They throw on the skirts and, they bang on their chest and everything. He had me ready. He got my blood pressure up. I had to take a seat myself. That dude, man, just give me a whole defense full of him. Because,
facts.
That dude, he on another level.
Hey, AP, thanks for the
I
call.
know you got more calls. I'm going to listen up for that sound bite. I appreciate
we will. If we don't get it in this segment, we will play it during before Real Things. So, AP, thanks for listening and thanks for the call. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. Anthony, do you have it yet? No?
Nope.
Okay, I know where we can find it if we need to on the internet, so we'll get that in a second. Let's go to Tyler in Reston. Tyler, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. It's Tell the Truth Monday. What you got?
What up, fellas? Happy Victory Monday.
Happy Victory Monday to you.
So my question is, do you think the O-line is legit? They've been ranked high on PFF through the last couple of weeks, but a lot of that has to do with scheme. We're chipping a lot, but how good are these guys?
What a question. Here's the thing, though, Tyler. They ain't going to change schemes for the rest of the year. And so this is kind of what I was trying to tell everybody last year was not that the offensive line was actually good, not that they secretly had a bunch of all-pros last year, simply that the way that an offensive line is deployed is going to be a bigger determining factor of their success than the individual talent themselves. You can have really good individual talents deployed poorly, and your offensive line is going to play like garbage. And you could have a mediocre to bad offensive line talent-wise, and you can be one of the best offenses in the league. Because that's exactly what, for instance, the Miami Dolphins were last year. They just get the ball out so quick down there that it didn't matter that their offensive line wasn't good. You could watch the tape. Those guys lost all the time. But Tua got the ball out before he got hit, and so it didn't matter. And he got the ball out to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and those guys are awesome, so they would still score touchdowns. And so this year, one, you have a coordinator playing to the strengths of the O-line. They got good athletes who can get out in space, and they have this run game. I actually think they probably leaned into some elements of that too much yesterday because Cleveland's got a lot of team speed defensively. I would have been a little more vertical downhill, but they obviously figured out how to move the football, including in the running game, just fine. But early on, I think that was kind of a feeling out process. And then they're not putting them in true drop back pass. And when they are, Jaden gets the ball out quicker. So your quarterback matters a lot too. So I would say the answer is they are a average to a slightly above average talent-wise offensive line because guys like Cosme can move. Wiley is above average at the things that he's good at. He's below average at the things that he's not. Brandon Coleman's coming along. But I think within the context, within the world that they're existing in right now with this quarterback and this coordinator and the other guys like Anthony Lynn and Bobby Johnson who deserve credit, I think this O-line is plenty good enough for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I definitely agree. I think it's a good breakdown. They're playing well, so hopefully it keeps up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, thanks for the call, man. Very much appreciated. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. Jordan Wickline is in the YouTube chat, Anthony. He thinks it was Gary. Gary is a different person that we fight with on the show. This was definitely Shane from Oxon Hill.
Yeah, for some reason, the search bar on here doesn't work. It's in one of these September folders.
Yeah, I know. I went looking for it too, and now I'm looking.
Like,
I'm looking on YouTube for it, and I can't find it. I can't find it either. But I'm.
I know
we're gonna find this thing because it's too good. In my head I have the pronunciation of Olamide Zacchaeus that just is the greatest thing that's ever happened on this show. Here we go. I got it on YouTube. So we're going to pot that up and we're going to hit play.
The guy had 11 touchdowns over the past 2 years.
By the way, this was in reaction to the Jahan Dotson trade, which becomes important. And in case you're wondering, who is he talking about when he definitely doesn't say Jahan Dotson?
The guy had 11 touchdowns over the past 2 years. Terry McLaurin has 9. Olamide Zacchaeus had 10 catches.
One more time. I'm sorry.
Terry McLaurin has 9. Olamide Zacchaeus had 10 catches.
It's not just Olamide. It's Olamide Zacchaeus. He gets every part of the name wrong.
Olamide Zacchaeus had 10 catches last year. Diami Brown had 100 yards last year. Are we a better team without Jahan Dotson? No, we're not. So stop all the baloney, man. We traded Montez Sweat, and now we have Cleveland Ferrell, who had 2 sacks, and Dante Fowler, who had 2 sacks. We have Austin Eckler, who is 30 years old. Like, come on, bro. Kendall Fuller is in Miami. Curtis Samuel is in Buffalo. Cam Curl is in with the Rams. And we have a guy, Adam Peters, who's bringing in bums. And everybody's like, oh, just because we're bringing in new faces mean we're better.
Well, Shane, there is something in common with this year and last year. In both years, they had 4 wins. It's just week 5.
Ooh.
Yeah. But hey, those guys, how is Kendall doing in Miami, by the way? How the Dolphins doing? I don't think they're killing it.
No.
I don't know how good of a year Kendall's having, to be honest. I'd have to look that up. Curtis Samuel's been in and out of the lineup hurt in Buffalo. Who else did he mention? Cam Curl.
Yep.
Cam's playing all right in LA, I think.
I stiffed armed a couple of times.
Yeah. How's Chin playing here?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Quan?
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's good. How'd De'Ami Brown play on Sunday?
Really good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. How did De'Ami Brown play on Sunday?
Really good.
Olamide. What do you say? Olamide. I can't even.
I think he said Omelette.
Olamide.
Yeah.
No, Olamide is how you actually say it. Olamide. That's what he said. Olamide Zacchaeus. How's he been playing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, good ball.
Saved us a fumble.
He sure did.
Yeah.
He should get yardage for that.
Yeah.
All that Austin Eckler rushing yardage should go to Zacchaeus. By the way, how's Eckler playing?
Really good.
I think he's averaging 11 yards a touch on the season.
That's really good.
Should we play it one more time?
Yeah.
The guy had 11 touchdowns over the past 2 years. Terry McLaurin has 9. Olamide Zacchaeus had 10 catches last year. De'Ami Brown had 100 yards last year. Are we a better team without Jahan Dotson? No, we're not. So stop all the baloney, man. We traded Montez Sweat, and now we have Cleveland Ferrell, who had 2 sacks. And Dante Fowler, who had 2 sacks. We have Austin Eckler, who is 30 years old. Like, come on, bro. Kendall Fuller is in Miami. Curtis Samuel is in Buffalo. Cam Curl is in with the Rams. And we have a guy, Adam Peters, who's bringing in bums. And everybody's like, oh, just because we're bringing in new faces mean we're better.
Eat it, Shane!
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.
the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Wrapping up here. Just a few minutes left in the show. Real things to come in a second. We are hoping to have some big-time guests on the show this week. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to jinx it, but just make sure you stay tuned to all the local places that we inform you of such things. Make sure that you are got the Odyssey app. Even if you listen mostly in your car, like you might get a notification on your phone that's like, hey, tune in now for big-time guests. This team is in the spotlight, and a lot of people want to talk about them. So we're going to be a place where we let some of the biggest names in the NFL do that. So make sure that you are locked into us all week long. And if you miss anything, check out the podcast. Outside of us continuously making fun of Shane and Oxon Hill for his incredibly bad takes this offseason, Anthony, what was your favorite part of the show today? People want to go back in the podcast and check it out.
Favorite part of the show today, I think Tell the Truth calls in the fourth segment. So 4:45.
4:45 segment. End of hour one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some good ones.
I think we had some good calls. And that's really the best. Like the 21-year-old, I forgot his name.
Charlie, I think.
Charles? It might have been. I'm not sure. But I know he was 21 years old.
Yeah. Christian. That's what it was.
Christian. That's a great memory.
The things I remember are sometimes impressive. The things I don't remember are whatever the inverse of that is.
Concerning.
Thumbs up.
Now, to hear his excitement where the franchise is, I've literally had his same exact experience. He came into, well, he's a little younger than me, but still in my 26 years of life, I haven't seen us be successful at all on the field. So he has the same, sentiments as me and a lot of my other, I guess, fellow millennials that have just never seen this franchise flourish. So I think that was probably my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, I think that those calls were really good. I enjoyed our chat with Phillips. And then, the 6 o'clock hour going through. I mean, it was a fun pick six to run through as well at the top of this hour at 6 o'clock. So hour 3 in the podcast if you are just tuning in. Because we really did wind up picking a lot of players that mattered in that game. So to talk about the game through the lens of those guys was definitely a good time. All right. Tomorrow on the show, Tischler Tuesday, Take Command Tape Tuesday. I got to go home and finish watching said tape. It's gonna be a work night, Anthony. Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yep.
But Take Command Tape Tuesday, Tischler vibe check. So take plenty of calls tomorrow. All kinds of fun stuff as we roll into another week, the biggest week the Commanders have frankly had on the field in years with this Ravens team. So going to be a whole lot of fun. One thing that we are pretty sure we're going to do is talk to Jason Lockenfora later this week. Of course, the longtime national NFL insider who hosts on our sister station 105.7 up in Baltimore. So we will do a crossover show or a crossover segment with them later this week with Lockenfora. So plenty of other things that are in the works as well. Right now, though, a bit of fun.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All righty then. I actually wasn't in the best mood when I got home last night, though, Anthony, because after the Commanders game ended, the Aces lost in the playoffs, and then the Spirit lost to Orlando. So back-to-back, two teams that I care about by the time I got back from Northwest Stadium. But I am happy for the Orlando Pride of the NWSL. Beat the Spirit yesterday to win the Shield, which is the regular season championship. They are unbeaten on the season. They are having just an outrageously good year, a franchise that's built it up the right way the last couple of years after many, many years of just bad ball. And their coach, Seb Hines, is Australian, and that automatically is a way to get yourself into real things because the accent. And one of his players, Ali Watt, stormed the press conference. Player storming press conference, coach with Australian accent after winning a championship. We're all in on this.
Guys, we're gonna go to Ali Watt in the front. Can someone get Ali Watt a mic, please? Abby? Ali, microphone.
Yeah, go.
Do I even need a microphone?
No.
So, Coach Hines, How does it feel to be a 2024 Shield winner?
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
It's all right?
Yeah, it's all right,
It's
isn't
all
it?
right.
It's a good feeling.
Hey, Anthony. It's all right, isn't it?
Isn't that a British word?
Anthony, I don't know how familiar you are with the history between Britain and Australia.
I'm not that familiar, actually.
You realize that the reason the accents sound the same is because that's where Britain sent a lot of people. It was a British territory for a very long time, like into the 1980s.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. It was kind of a place where I think a lot of British criminals were sent, kind of like a southern jail.
Good gracious.
Turns out they were escaping the cloudy gray of Great Britain and getting to go to Australia, so jokes on the British. But yeah, if you've ever thought to yourself, Australian kind of sounds like Southern British. It's because it is. Dang. Maybe there's a reason that they both say mate.
They tell you,
it's all right, isn't it?
You learn something new every day.
Yeah. You should watch The Crown on
Crown?
Netflix. Yeah. You know I'm not a big scripted TV guy, so if I'm telling you that something's good, you should watch it.
All right.
You'll learn a lot. I mean, that one you could have learned in history class, but
I didn't learn. Yeah, I didn't learn that.
History class, Netflix. At this point, you're not taking classes anymore, so you might as well go the Netflix route. It'll be all right, isn't it? See you tomorrow, mates.